Morning, Toronto services, and we are Ask a Traffic Cop again. We're back in that mode. Oh, all the tweets are going out. Fantastic! I'm getting alerts everywhere. Hey, stop that! My watch is possessed. This is why you should not be using an Apple Watch while you're driving. See, because it's distracting. It's the 19th of August, 2021, and like I said, it's Ask a Traffic Cop. We will be bringing our guests in just a moment, but I want to cover some important information, and that is Vision Zero Enforcement Team. Vision Zero Enforcement Team is a dedicated group of officers that go out throughout the city. They focus on different specific events, or at least behaviors, and that's the big four. The big four are speeding, aggressive driving, impaired driving, distracted driving. And those are the behaviors that lead to serious injury and death. And today, the team is focused on 31 Division and 51 Division. They're augmenting the already good work that officers in those divisions are doing. They're just helping them to keep those roads safer. And a ticket is potentially something that'll save your life. It may change your behavior. It may motivate you to make a change and follow those rules, which are really there just to keep people safe. So I want to introduce two people. We may have three, but right now it's two. First, Beverley McKee from the Toronto Humane Society. Welcome. And I'm also going to bring in Auxiliary PC Amanda McDonald. This is our panel. At the moment, we have one who is magical about pet safety, and the other who's magical about child safety. And there's a lot of similarities because for many people, your pet is your fur baby. So we're gonna have a great conversation about this. Here, let me do this. There. Okay. Now, Beverly, welcome. Hope you're having a great day.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm really excited about this. Something I'm really passionate about.
I bet. I think you'd have to be passionate about it to be 24/7 Humane Society, involved with animals, which is fantastic. Thank you for what you do. We are, of course, a traffic unit. We're the Toronto Police. We're interested in how we can keep our pets safe when we're moving around town, when we're in our cars, or in any other way, anything that rolls, not just cars. And how would you suggest we keep our pets safe when we're doing that?
Well, I think the first and most important consideration, and it's certainly something that's on our mind right now because it's been just so darn hot this week, is we have to remember that we just can't leave our pets in the car for any extended period of time. My rule of thumb is just don't leave them in the car. It's really easy to say to yourself, I'm going to go to the dog park, and on my way home, oh darn, I forgot I need whatever you need for your dinner, and you're on your way home, and I'm just going to pop into Metro, and I'm going to crack the windows a little bit, but I don't want to leave them open. And I'm just going to be in and out. And then you get into Metro and you can't find what you need, and then there's a lineup, or your card isn't working, or something goes on, and before you know it, that 2 minutes that you think you're going to be gone turns into 10 minutes. And pets can die in 10 minutes. They simply
Wow.
don't have the sweat glands that humans have to moderate their body temperature. And we've got the physical harm that can be done, and also, like, that animal's going to get super stressed out. Not to mention that people are going to stop, see your pet in your car, probably break your windows, stress your pet out more. What if your animal jumps out? You've got a cat in the car, and what if the animal jumps out and escapes and gets hit by a car? That's a tragedy. What if your dog is a little fearful around people who are strangers, is already freaked out because he's in the car and he's hot and he's alone? Someone reaches in as a good Samaritan, that dog bites that person, and boom, all of a sudden you've got an issue where that person's calling 311, calling the police, saying, I got badly bitten by this dog. Suddenly your dog has a bite history. These are just a few things. I'll shut up now. I can talk for a long time about this.
No, this is great. You know what? It's funny. We've talked about pet safety and keeping pets in hot cars. I've never had anyone say bite history. Never talk about the potential of setting your pet up for failure, like for a situation where you could end up having a horrible outcome that you never planned on. All you wanted to do is go get that pack of gum or a Diet Coke or whatever it is, and now you have a dog that you have to pay for someone's, they may have to put the dog down depending on, I don't know how that works. Maybe you can enlighten us, but I never went down that road before. So that's amazing. Amanda, you are an auxiliary PC with the Toronto Police. You volunteer specifically at traffic services, and you are an amazing source of information when it comes to child safety restraints, and car seats and moving your kids around safely. But we've talked about pets before, and the heat aspect is one that we'll circle back and talk more about in a moment. But you also talk about keeping your kids safe. How about keeping your pets safe? Like, this is something that you guys can enlighten me on as to the best ways.
Yeah, so pets are another being in the vehicle. And a lot of what I talk about is not just child safety, but passenger safety. So when you think of your pet in a vehicle, there's two things to think of. One is keeping everyone else in the vehicle safe. So if your pet is roaming the vehicle, they are now potentially a projectile in a collision if they can hit someone. But also, you want to keep them safe. I mean, I have my fur babies, and I don't want anything to happen to them if there was a collision. So whether it's restraining them with a proper harness or with crates, you want something that's going to keep them safe and keep them where you want them to be.
So you put your kids, whether they have fur or not, in a place safe because you're going to keep everybody in your car safe, including you as a driver. And Beverly, do you get a lot of? We see it a lot. I know from a legal perspective what I do when I see cars drive by and there's a dog behind the front the steering wheel. Let's talk about that. Driving around with a car, an animal that's not secured in the vehicle.
Well, it's exactly that. I mean, I think a lot of us really take our responsibility as drivers very seriously, and it might not occur to us that having your pet on your lap could potentially be something that would seriously distract you, notwithstanding the fact that if you have to slam on your brakes, that airbag is deploying and that animal's going to get injured. A, B, if you have to slam on the brakes and the animal's in the back seat, boom, that animal's going to either hit you in the back of the head and knock you out, or it's going to go through the windshield. Boom, we've got a problem again. That animal is injured. So we don't think about that. I can look at it from, a perspective too, that I think animals, can really benefit from a little independence training. I am a certified behavior consultant and a certified animal trainer. So I always look at things from that because I want those animals to feel comfortable. So that little bit of independence training, if we're constantly coddling that animal on our lap, you know, I just don't see that as a great setup. That's probably the least of our considerations in this particular discussion. But the other thing that really worries me and that I see, because I just know that animals don't think on the level we do. They're not saying, okay, for my own safety today, I'm going to sit very quietly in this car because I understand the risks involved if someone's to slam on the brake. But I also see a lot of people with their animals sitting on the passenger side or sitting on their lap, the window's wide open because, yeah, you're keeping your dog cool or your cat cool or whatever. But if that dog sees a squirrel, you can have the best trained dog in the world, but if that squirrel is really bringing it on to the dog's going to be out the window. Again, we have a problem. And how are you, as someone who's driving a car, going to stop that? You can't.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, squirrels, they do it to the best of us. I mean, you got, yeah. Listen, I know how it is with my kids, and they see something. I've got my little one says, "Daddy, a puck," or it wants to hand me every dirty, boogie. And then you have at least I can have the conversation of, "Hey, kiddo, I'm driving right now." It's harder with a non English speaking animal potentially. Hey, listen, I'm not knocking it. If your animal speaks, power to you, but they may not be as compliant when they're excited, and if they're bouncing around untethered, that's a problem. Now there's a lot of different options, right? Like there's the best position, so back seat being better than front seat, and tethered to the back seat so they can't end up in the front seat is huge. But I've seen cage situations for setups where it's it's a wall, essentially a cage that keeps animals in effectively the trunk area, in an SUV or an open area. Not obviously, we don't want you putting your animals in the trunk. Don't let me suggest otherwise. It is, but either keeping them so they're restricted to the back area or in the back seat being ideal. And you touched on it, Beverly, about making sure they're not hitting you when they're flying forward in the event of a collision, because that's a serious concern. A projectile, whether it be hurting you or themselves in the vehicle or being thrown from the vehicle, is also a major concern. So many different working
Yeah.
points that come into play.
Yeah, and with those barriers, something to keep in mind is if there is a collision and they're not otherwise restrained, so within a cage or a harness, frequently windows break in collisions. And now you get the situation that you see on social media where someone's like, there was a collision here, the dog escaped. Has anyone seen this dog? And the last thing you want to do, especially right after a collision where someone might be injured, is also have to worry about, where's my pet and what might be happening to them.
So it's
Yeah.
added stress for the participants in the collision, and also risk for emergency services workers. The animal may have actually been safe in the collision and now runs out into traffic through an open window and becomes injured subsequent to the collision. So it's another area we've never talked about. It keeps everybody where they're supposed to be, so when help comes, they can address everybody. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So as from a dog sports person and someone who takes my dog with me to go to places where we're going to visit, not takes him with me and leaves him in the car. He comes with me, or he stays home, but he's a social being. I put a lot of thought into how I personally transport him because I want to make sure that he is in a crate. So what I do is I make sure that any animal that's going to be riding with me regularly is crate trained. So the first thing I do is I put a lot of effort into making sure that the dog is very, very comfortable with this. And I say dog, it could be equally applicable to cats or rabbits or any companion pet that comes with you. The second thing I'm really careful about is I actually secure the crate as well.
Good.
Because I know that I put a lot of thought into this because I'm a total animal nerd and I put a lot of thought into this, but I want to be sure that if I do have to slam on my brakes, that crate itself is secure, so the crate doesn't come and go through the window or hit me in the back of the head, because these are things that have been pointed out. You study these things, you read about that, you're like, hey, what are you doing? What do you do? What do you do? The other thing we kind of keep in mind too is to make sure that the crate is, a travel secure crate. Some crates are, I don't feel like a canvas. It's better than nothing, but a canvas crate might not be as secure for my actual animal. Now, there's a whole subset of dog owners who literally invest thousands of dollars in custom made kennels for their dogs that are custom made for their cars. And there's actually room for a crumple zone if you're back ended and this.
Wow.
So you can go really, really high depth in this. For me, I'm happy with a metal crate or a airline crate that is secured, that I secure with straps, and that won't wobble or move if I have to slam on the brakes. My dog loves being in there. He knows that going the crate in the car means we're going to go somewhere fun. So that's my best case scenario. I understand a lot of people aren't going to be, maybe quite as into it as I am. So I also think that harnesses and restraints are a good option. And I'd love it, Amanda, if you could just speak a little bit further on your suggestions for that, because I will learn from that too.
Yeah, so when it comes to restraints for the car, so harnesses, you never want to use a collar to restrain them in the car. That's not going to help at all. There really is two different categories. So there are some harnesses that are basically designed to stop them from being a projectiles and stop them from being a distraction. So it keeps them in position, but in a collision, it's not really going to help that much. There are other harnesses that are actually designed and crash tested specifically to keep the animal safe in a collision. One of the kind of leaders in that crash testing process is a company called Sleepy Pod. They make a couple different harnesses, as well as for smaller dogs and cats, actual carriers that are crash tested.
Wow.
And they test to the same standards as car seats are actually tested. They've made dog sized crash test dummies, all of that. There are a few other ones that are kind of learning from this and going on, but you really want to look at something that's going to keep them safe, and so that after the collision, you're not then going to the vet and dealing with all the injuries that can come from that.
But let's talk about that. You have someone who's driving around. They have this little fluffy guy or puppy I don't know, puppy. It's a puppy on the lap. You get into a collision. People don't consider the fact that that airbag is deploying at over 200 kilometers an hour. That's going to do significant damage if it doesn't instantly end your poor pup's life. But also that's being thrust into you, so you're going to suffer injuries. And I'm sorry, when bones break, they become sharp. They could be thrust into you, and you could suffer injuries that would not have happened for any other reason. But then there's the situation where you hit the brakes and that little fluffy guy gets stuck under your feet, under the pedals, there's all sorts of negatives that could cause a collision, never mind what happens in a collision that's already occurred. It may be the cause of a collision. And the not wanting to make your dog feel bad, not wanting to upset your dog or make it anxious by putting it outside of your lap. You need to train that animal to be happy outside of that space on your lap. It needs to have some separation. You need to focus on the task at hand, which is driving safely. So
Yeah, and you can do that even if you're right now riding with them in your lap, you can do that process. I actually had a senior dog that I got when he was about 13 years old, so he was very used to riding in laps. And for me, the process was okay. The first thing was sitting in the front passenger wheel well, so away from that airbag on the floor, but still close enough that I could put my hand down, pet him. He was still confident. Then I moved him to being harnessed on the passenger seat with the seat all the way back. So now he was used to being harnessed. And eventually we did move to him feeling mostly comfortable being in the back seat harnessed. So, I mean, if a 13-year-old dog who's been doing this his whole life can get used to it, your younger dog can figure out the process as well.
Absolutely. That's a textbook case of one of the things that trainers do is we use a process of desensitization and counter conditioning to teach a dog. And we do it incrementally. When we actually do training plans, and I'm going to plug Toronto Humane Society's training department because we actually work with members of the public to help with this and many other kinds of problems. But a training plan like that would be very similar to that. What we would probably do as trainers, just to be sort of responsible, is we'd start that process saying before you're even thinking about taking your dog in the car, you're going to go sit in the car with the dog, and you're going to start just as Amanda said, with the dog in the well, and you're going to just treat him and whatever. Then session over. Then you're going to move to the seat. Then you're going to move to the back seat. And you're going to create that huge positive association. You can do the same thing with cats. You can do the same thing with birds. You can do the same thing with rabbits. Behavior is behavior. But that is absolutely, just to throw some positive reinforcement your way, the way we would do it. And it's so worth the investment. Yeah, it takes time.
Apparently, it also works for children. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, but the deal with but it is a thing. Kids don't want to be rear facing, and then we don't want to say no, so we turn them around so they stop yelling and screaming, and maybe we put them forward facing when they're not ready for it because we want to feel better about it, not because it's the safest thing for them. And that's the same thing with pets. We got to do what's safest for all of us in that car, you and your pet, not just because they whine and you feel bad. You know what? If they die or if you get injured or if you're in a collision, because that's something to feel bad about. Having them cry a little bit, you'll all get over it. It's me being the big meanie, but that's what I do. I'm the big meanie.
And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we have to weigh consequences sometimes, and sometimes consequence A is a little bigger than consequence B. But luckily, we do have these processes that we can actually employ, which actually make this experience a really joyful one for the animal. My own dog, who's sleeping very carefully, I'm not going to disturb him because he likes to bark at me when I'm on a meeting. He said, want to go in the car is joyful because I spent that time teaching him slowly, go in the crate, you're going to get a cookie. Go in the crate, you're going to get a cookie. We're going to go for a ride. One of the things I like to point out, and people don't think about it, is you want to be sure that your animal's first car ride isn't to a stressful place like, okay, first time in the car, we're going to go to the vet and he's going to take your temperature and stick you with a needle and trim your paws and look in your ears. That's going to be maybe not the best approach. So
maybe not.
Those like test drives or that time spent with that desensitization and classical conditioning process to really get a great emotional condition response. And I bet you that works with kids too. I know behavior is behavior, regardless of the animal. I'm pretty sure that I don't know anything about training kids, so I'll leave on you.
Training kids is a bit like training cats.
Okay, and I got two kids. I have no experience with training cats. I didn't know cats were trainable. Frankly, I thought they
That's the
just
point.
I okay. As long as we're on the same page, yeah.
Cats
Okay then.
are totally trainable. Here I
They
am
are.
arguing with two cops, right? Cats
Hey,
are
my cat
totally
hits a
trainable.
button to talk to me, so there's stuff
Okay.
there.
Okay, and Q's in the background and says, "How do you think they go to the litter box?" Okay, I get that there's some basic stuff. I get it, but I've never played tic tac toe with a cat. Mind you, I've never played tic tac toe with a dog. Moving along, the the fact is we have to do it safe now. Just for the people who are viewing and want to know what's going on with the legal side of it, driving with a dog in your lap is going to very likely land in a charge of driver or drive while crowded. You can't have something on your lap. You can't be distracted like that. And it could also be a careless driving. It depends on how it goes, what the result is. But simply having it on your lap, an animal on your lap, is going to be a problem. You don't want to have you don't want to be pulled over by police and investigated or told or finger wagged or charged. It's just you don't want to go there. And worse, you don't want to be in a collision and have to bury an animal after something very similar, because the amount of energy that I imagine would take to harm an animal would be lesser than the energy to harm one of us, especially the very small animals that if you dropped off a table would probably be hurt. So it's something to think about. These are minor collisions could be really detrimental especially a smaller animal. You were talking about your kennel or your crate in the back of the car that you have it strapped down. If you don't, you increase the number of collisions that animal is going to experience as it's being thrust forward in the vehicle in the event of a collision. Something that we don't usually think about is that there's multiple collisions in a collision. You have the car hitting another car, that's collision one. Then you have collision two when you, who is still traveling at the same rate of speed prior to the collision, comes and meets with the seatbelt. Then you have your organs, which are still traveling at the same speed, and they meet the inside of your body. Well, now you look at that poor dog who's being thrown or catapulted through a vehicle, and there's multiple points where they're going to receive injury. They don't have the benefits of that seatbelt. Even with a tether, there's more movement. There's still more that's going on. It's not like a child who's restrained and there's nowhere for them to go, and it's a much safer process where the weight is distributed. Anyway, we're going way down the rabbit hole of collisions, but we want you to be safe. We want your animals to be animals. I can't say animals to be safe, and we want everyone to drive safely so that we don't have any problems. And that's where it's at. Now back to the heat for a second, because we talked briefly about making sure that temperature is appropriate. Now, people freak out. They say, "Oh, I can't leave animals in a car in the winter." Winter is not so much of an issue. It's more so the summertime. It's the heat. It's that extreme heat. Animals, assuming they have coats on, and not zip up ones, but they have actual fur coats, can handle some level of cold. Not to say we want to leave them outside for a long time. What do you think? What would you tell us about that? And am I wrong? By all means, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But I'm open to that. It's just my understanding that heat is an extreme 10-minute thing, and you want to be cognizant of their responsiveness, and those effects come on a lot quicker. But outside in the cool could be a longer period of time.
So, I mean, yeah, but where do you decide when it's too hot and when it's too cold? I mean, I may be a little bit. I'm very literal minded, so I apologize. So I don't like to go down rabbit holes of the Monty Python
The
sketch.
what ifs.
The what ifs. If this is this, then this is this. If this is this, then it's a witch. So I think it's a good policy to just not leave your animal in the car for extended periods of time. I actually don't know what the stats are on injuries to dogs or cats left in cars in cold temperatures. I would imagine like animals can get frostbite the same as we can. I just don't know what the time length is. And yeah, they're wearing
Sure.
a coat, but what about their nose? What about their tips of the ear? What I do know is just like with humans, animals can get frostbite on their extremities first.
Okay.
Tips of the ears, nose. The other thing that I just always want to come back to from a behavior standpoint is animals can't tell us how they're feeling in any one given way, shape, or form except by body language cues. What if you think your animal's okay, but really they're getting more and more and more stressed out? So when we think
Okay.
about it from an emotional welfare is a heavy word, but that's a word I'm using generally. Like, how's my animal feeling? So there's a lot of things to unpack there. So I think generally, yeah, you probably have a little bit more wiggle room in the winter than you do in the summer. But again, I always look back to, you're getting away from the city, you're taking your dog or your cat, you're going up to the cottage, whether it's a winter visit or a summer visit, and the kids have to go to the bathroom or they're grumpy, you want to go get a snack. You think you're going to be in and out, but you decide to sit down because everyone wants a break from the car. How long is too long? Like, to me, it's like, leave someone
It's
in the car with the animal, plan to keep it a short little in and out. Don't sit down at a restaurant. You don't know how long anything could happen.
I agree with you. I agree. I think that where I was going is that it's not as an immediate. But I like your suggestion of, you know what, rather than having a different opinion for different things and how do you judge that, let's just make it a no. Don't do it. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I wanted that chat to be there. Okay. There's a couple of questions that came in, and one is from Angela. Actually, there's three good ones from Angela. Wait, what's going on here? My reply. No, I don't want to reply. I want to show. There we go. Angela Topping, are seatbelts for pets safe? And yes, I think we can say that they are safe. They are, if they're designed for pets and they're the appropriately tested ones, they are considered safe. But I know that was a quick, easy one that I could just say, yeah, we talked about that. And if you missed that earlier, Angela, you can play this back later and we cover a whole discussion about it. And then the next is it a collar and then into the seatbelt, or is it a harness? And I think you talked about it briefly, but maybe we could just touch on it again.
So it is, you do want the harness instead of the collar. The other side is there's two styles, some that click into the seatbelt. I probably wouldn't necessarily go with those. The ones that tend to perform better are the ones that the seatbelt routes through a spot on the harness and then buckles into itself. Because the harness itself, or the seatbelt and the buckle, are designed to work together. Anytime you add other things into the buckle, you don't know if they're going to react properly together. Not every buckle is designed the same.
Okay. Now, this is one that we can all talk about. We haven't touched on yet. It's another Angela question who's got, this is the three for this is great. If we see an animal in a car with no windows down, what can we do to take fast action? My personal opinion is going to be call 911. I think it's considered an emergency. While you're talking to a dispatcher, it's going to be call out and see if anybody in the area owns this vehicle. Who does anyone see where the owner is? You're taking observations of the animal inside to see if it's responsive, to see, because you want to be able to convey that message to the dispatcher who's going to be activating emergency services, because this is an emergency. Now, let's build on that. Beverly, what else would you say?
I don't know what the actual, legal side of that is. I mean, signs of heat stroke could be an animal that is completely shut down, panting heavily, eyes glazed, non-responsive, and it can happen very quickly. You hear stories about people smashing windows. I would like to take, I mean, I would be very hesitant to smash a window. I would call 911. Sometimes people think that, they walk by a window and a dog is barking at them, that dog is in distress. We have to keep in mind that probably if a dog is barking, it's not probably having heat stroke, and that dog is barking because they feel a little frustrated behind
It's more of a concern when they're not barking, when they're not saying anything.
I'd be more concerned if they weren't barking or if they appeared to be. An animal in duress, an animal is sick. You could tell. I mean, usually it's a non-responsiveness things, because I know if I walked up to some stranger's car and went like, "Oh, a puppy," I'm gonna see, and like this, the dog's probably gonna come at,
at least look at
sorry,
you.
I'm talking with my hands. I think everybody gets it. They're gonna come and bark at you in your face because they don't want you near that. Where we have to make, a judgment call is there. And I certainly don't want people walking around smashing windows all the time, because again, then I worry about what if that animal is perfectly fine and it really is literally that 2 seconds, or the owner is 2 steps away returning, throwing something in the garbage, or, what have you.
You certainly don't have license. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you do smash that window and it's a dog or a cat, we've got, again, the danger of the dog escaping, which poses a potential loss of the animal, injury of the animal, or that animal running out into traffic and causing a traffic accident. The second for me always is if an animal feels really threatened, they're more inclined to bite out of fear,
Yeah.
and we don't want to put those animals in a situation where they're feeling so much emotional duress that they bite, because they're not biting because they're bad. They're biting because they're super, super scared, and you've probably scared them, although you mean the best things. So that call 911 is really the best answer for me.
And they're going to give you direction. If they say, based on what you're saying, they give you direction to break the window, although I don't think they would, at least then you have on a recorded line, you were given direction by police, you're acting on direction. It's not just, you know what, I think I'm going to break this window, because that would not be good. Now, it's something else to think about, and Q brought it up, is that, the we have, and sorry, just a response from Angela there. Interesting. So the fact is, we have cars now that have built-in features to keep animals safe. Tesla being one of them. I think they're possibly the most popular in terms of this feature, and it's the dog mode, where they have on their screen, a picture that's in words that say this is dog mode. My climate control is being set. The temperature in the vehicle right now is this. I am okay, and that is capable of maintaining temperature for an extended period of time until the battery dies. So, and there's other connections that tell the driver, how much juice
Yeah,
they've got left.
well.
There's a lot of things going on, and that's a unique situation. I would say it's probably one of the only vehicles that has that as an option. But again, going back to, so be aware, make your observations, convey that to emergency services, and don't make any rash decisions that could end up having you injured by way of breaking the glass, have you legally responsible for breaking that glass, because you aren't, although there's a good Samaritan situation where, in certain situations, you figure it out after. This isn't one of those. You really need to get some guidance.
And know that normal looks different for different breeds. For example, my friend has a pug, and she had somebody get very, very mad at her once because her pug was panting, and pugs pant heavily as their norm. And somebody went off on her about, your dog's hot, and they're in the car, and she's like, I'm standing right beside my car, and this is normal. This is what pugs look like.
That's how pugs roll.
I think if someone does have those temperature control checks and balances, if they, I can't speak to the Tesla because, you know what, way above my pay scale. I mean, I don't even go look, because I just know it's going to be an exercise in probably, why didn't I listen to my mother and marry a rich doctor? But that was a terrible joke. I apologize. But, I think if someone goes to that extent too, like, you can look and see, I think dog lovers are probably aware that people will be concerned for their pets and appreciate the concern. Like, I always appreciate it when someone shows concern for my pet, because I see that coming from a good place in that person's heart and a real care about the welfare of animals. So if there is a sign in the front window saying, this is a temperature controlled vehicle, I have an app that will alert me if the battery dies. However, if you see that the battery is dead, or this car is not running, or my animal in distress, please text this number right away and I will come running. There are things that you can do, certainly.
Interesting.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It's interesting. And I've seen people who have put in contraptions that are supposed to cool the vehicle. I don't know if they are appropriate. At the end of the day, if you have any questions as to whether the well-being of that animal is in question, then you can call and we'll take action from there. But don't take action on your own is the big suggestion.
Police canine vehicles have very cool contraptions for that as well, where they'll turn on the conditioning automatically and open windows automatically, things like that. Because again, when you have a vehicle with the animal's going to be in there, you have to have be aware of those things.
And those are purpose built. That's a vehicle designed to transport working dogs. They go through a huge amount. I mean, we had them recently at an event that I attended. The entire canine unit, which I have to send some photos to, had their hoods open. They had things like they were actively working, because even in a vehicle that was designed to keep it cool enough on a hot day, that's working overtime. The air conditioning that's built into a vehicle doesn't have enough to do it. So, here's professional dogs, and some of those vehicles are carrying multiple dogs. It just shows you that here you have a vehicle purpose built for transporting animals, and it's having difficulty maintaining the appropriate amount of coolness to be safe for that animal to the point where they're taking other measures. So it's interesting, it's someone who just says, I'll crack the window open this much. It's not enough. And we talk about animals, we talk about kids, but leaving family behind. I mean, if you're going into the store and grandma's in the back seat, grandma might not be okay when you get back. The heat is it can be devastating, and it doesn't take very long for that heat to get uncontrollable. I'll pick up my kids. We'll stop at a restaurant before, if I check a text for 2 minutes before we actually get out and start unloading, I have difficulty. It's so hot and muggy, and I'm finding it labor intensive to either breathe, or it's uncomfortable. Well, give it 5 more minutes, and you're going to be disgusting. It's going to be sweat. It's going to be hard to breathe. So I totally get why an animal would be in distress, because I would be in distress if I was in that car. So this is all about the safety of everyone in a vehicle. Heat is dangerous. Now, I want to go back for a second and cover off some things, because I think we've covered off everything there is to talk about. We've talked about heat. We've talked about harnesses for safety. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should address?
Something that 2020 has encouraged or brought out is curbside pickup is always an option. Most stores and businesses are now offering it, and I remember several years ago now with my dog, I would go for a car ride back to my hometown, and I'd have to make choices on where can I visit, where can I stop for food, because I didn't want to leave him in the car. Now you have far more options, and I bet most companies, if you were to be in the parking lot and call and say, hey, here's the situation, they'd rather work with you than have you leave your animal in the car.
So if there's any positives by what we've gone through in the last couple of years, is the fact that we have now created a more pet friendly environment where you don't have to leave. There's no excuse to leave your dog behind, because unless you want to peruse the aisles, which is really not an excuse to me. Using curbside deliveries or pickup is a fantastic solution to remove the need to leave your animals unattended. So I think that's great. Now, Humane Society, just to let people know where you can be reached, www.torontohumanesociety.com. It's simple. It's right there. It's the whole name. And there's all sorts of great information. And you were saying, Beverly, that there's some new things that you're doing. You've got other services, other things. You're not just a shelter anymore.
Yeah, we are definitely like no other, which is our new slogan. We are not just an animal shelter anymore. We provide a number of services to pet parents in the community. A lot of people are very familiar with our public veterinary clinic, where you can go get your animal spayed, neutered, get some wellness appointments. But also, we have training service that caters specifically. It's a whole department that's set up specifically to cater to the needs of
Wow.
pet owners. We have a team of fully certified animal trainers and behavior consultants. We specialize in cats and dogs. Everyone say cats can't be, come talk to me. We love working with cats. I have a certified cat behavior consultant who works with cat owners on every single behavior you could possibly think. She's one of the few in Canada. We also have a certified applied animal behaviorist, which is a huge designation. You have to be a doctor to get
Wow.
one on our team that we consult with all the time. So, bring us your cat problems, and we do tricks training with cats because we think they are adorable.
Well, I have a problem with cats. I'm allergic to them. So there's nothing happening with cats and me.
What allergy pills are for?
That's what they're for. I'm actually allergic to dogs and horses, but that doesn't stop me.
Okay, well, it's not me, because I like being able to breathe, and when your throat closes up, that's my kryptonite. I love cats. I love all animals. It's great, and I like it. Well, anyway, I got stories about cats. I grew up with cats around the house, and that's how I know that I am allergic to them. But it's a shame, and it's great to know that you do so much great work with them. Now, is the Humane Society open for adoption? Regular business going on?
We're slowly opening up various departments. We do have a date set, which I don't recall off the top of my head, so apologies if my boss is listening. Sorry, I forget. But we do have a date set up for people to come on site to do adoptions. But all through COVID, what that department did was they just pivoted. We all just pivoted to be able that we can continue to provide services to people, and we went all virtual. So
Nice.
we do training classes virtually. We're going to keep doing them because we get people from all over the place who appreciate the level of expertise our trainers have for group classes or or one-on-one consultations or whatever. They were doing their adoption interviews virtually as well. I'm not sure if they're going to continue doing that, but we are slowly opening up. The website is updated as things open up. We're doing in-person training sessions again at the shelter. We're not doing groups yet because we're very, very cautious about the number of people that we're putting together, because we've always been very cautious, because at the end of the day, we still are an animal shelter too, along with the other things too. And we need to make sure that we have staff to care for the animals who are in our shelter. So that's always been a big factor. PVS, our Public Veterinary Services, is opening up for different types of appointments too. So we're excited about that.
I think it's awesome. And now, so check out the website, TorontoHumaneSociety.com. And if you are Twitter enabled, if that is your mode of communication, THS_tweet. You can get them there too. And lots of updates and information being shared on the Twitterverse. It's that thing that we use. It's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Beverly. It's been a blast. And Amanda, as always, thank you for coming in. She's here all the time now. She's just part of the backdrop.
This has been the most fun interview I've done in a long time.
I'm glad to hear it. We'll hope to have you back again. I'm sure we can talk about lots of other pet safety stuff and things. And we'll have you on it again whenever it gets warm, hot, cold. We got things to talk about.
There's always things to discuss.
Awesome. Well, listen, a little business for me to take care of, and just talking about my Twitter stuff. I'll just go through them. You can get Toronto Police Traffic Services at Traffic Services on Twitter. You can get us on Instagram at Traffic Services Toronto. We are on YouTube, where this show will be available for replay. You can get us there at Traffic Services Toronto Police. Just search us on that amazing YouTube search engine and you will find us. Subscribe, because it helps us. And if you ring the bell, you get notified. It's amazing how that works. Of course, where we are every morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. live on the TikTok. You can get us at Traffic Services there, and we post videos throughout the day, every day, for your entertainment and education. So join us on TikTok, join us on all the other platforms, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Tomorrow we will be back here. We'll be back. Why can't I say that so smoothly today? We will be back with Scott Marshall, the safe driver. He joins us on Fridays. Tomorrow's Friday, so Friday away. We're all over it. Now, we had a couple more messages pop in. I just want to make sure that we have. Oh, here we go. We got a couple of things to just close off with. We have Big Jeff Fresh, who says, "Have a great day." Thank you, Jeff. Jeff is on our Discord. He's an active viewer. He's all over the place. We see him.
He's my best friend's husband. So
you're saying you bribed him to be here?
No, I didn't know.
And Angela, congratulations to Toronto Humane Society for expanding. She has Angela. 3 kittens: mom cat, dad cat, and black lab. So that's quite a family going on there. And just thanks. She also mentioned earlier she watches us on TikTok. So thank you for transitioning over to the other social medias. We appreciate you coming to visit us there. And once again, thank you both for being on the show today. It's been a blast. We'll catch you again soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
All right, we're going to hit this button.